Right, we've got a new welder here. Has some great features. It's a little different than some of the others. Does aluminum and steel, and it has some sort of an automatic setting as well. So it's really kind of cool. Let's check it out. All right, so it looks like a pretty nice machine. Number one, I always check metal feed system. Only way to go. It has one feed roller here. 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. There's a bunch of different sizes of wire. So a lot of them are missing some of the smaller sizes, or the for the flux core or whatever. It looks like it has all of them. I don't know the numbers on them all, but it looks like there's some that I've never even seen. So there's all different sizes of feed rollers, and there's one in the machine. So it's kind of cool. It has the settings here for the wire sizes and recommended metal thickness and all that. So it's easier to figure out for you guys who are brand new. Welding. Looks like a good welder for a new person. You know, it's not the cheapest welder. There's ones that are cheaper. Okay. And there's ones that are cheaper that are gas that'll work. So a lot of you guys have bought the other ones that I've showed, and there's nothing wrong with those machines. This one here is like an upgrade to those. It does not come with a gas regulators, and these are not expensive. They're on Amazon. Maybe $20 to $30, I'm thinking, for these. So it's in that range. Or if you've already got a machine, you want to upgrade to this one, or your other one broke, and you already have that piece, that won't be a big deal to you. This is I think a 6-function, 6-in-1 gas, MIG, gasless, MIG, MMA, TIG, spot welding tool. So it also has a spot welding function for it. I don't know, it does automatic spot welding, I guess, so you can just pull the trigger once. We'll find out a little bit later. It's a really nice looking screen. They also have these helmets that come in bags, so you can get one of these with your machine if you order the right package. If you look on the link in the description, go to the Amazon link, and then go to ARCCAPTAIN's. They have their own little sales thing in Amazon. You can go in there and you can select to buy the machine with the helmet, without the helmet. So there's some options in there, and sometimes they're on sale or whatever. So you can kind of surf through there, through the link in the description, and that'll also help support the YouTube channel. So if you're going to that, it's best just to go through my link, and then it helps to support the channel. I know if you got other guys watch Fitzy's Metal, he did a review on this as well and liked it. So I'm sure I'm going to like the machine. I'll just have to throw a spool of wire in here, and we'll put in some 026 wire, or 0.6 wire, the small stuff. And you know, that 025, 023, all that, it just depends on the brand of the wire. It's the smaller wire. They have small wire and big wire. The small wire is what I usually use for doing sheet metal work. And again, these machines are the best. The smaller machines like this are the best for doing sheet metal work. The bigger machines, it's harder to get them to dial in to do that thinner metal. And these ones here just really do a good job. And I think Fitzy noticed a lot of things on him when he used it, because he had probably not used an inverter machine, and inverter machines work so much better. You know, I don't even get out my other one anymore. You know, I have my old analog machine, and these inverter ones weld cleaner and nicer, and you can get a nicer spot weld with them. I'm assuming this one will work the same as the others. Let's look at the condition of some of the stuff. The torch looks pretty nice. It's pretty well made. I compare these to the Harbor Freight ones because that's what a lot of you guys are looking at. I think this one's cheaper than the Harbor Freight one, and it's a multi-function unit. It does not come with a spool welder, but it can be upgraded to a spool welder. Some of the cheap ones can't. So some of the other ones that maybe you guys already have, if you want to upgrade to doing, aluminum or something like that. To do aluminum, you also need additional different gas. So you can't just use argon mix with aluminum. You got to use straight argon. So you got to have a different gas bottle. But this one here does. They do have a spool for this spool gun for this welder, according to the documentation that I've read here. So you can go to their Amazon store, and you can find those things there, probably available through their store. So far, I like that they have a lot of space in here to put your wire in. Really easy to put the wire in this machine. So that's nice. A nice big door. Some of them don't. It seems to be well set up. It's a little more money than the other ones, and if you're willing to spend a little more, you might get a little more. So it does not have a TIG torch. It does have a grounding cable. Let's look how long it is. Well, this one happens to have a really nice long ground cable, which is one of my pet peeve things that I like with that I don't like with some of the cheaper welders. Like the one from Welding is nice welder, it works great, but it does not have a very long ground. So sometimes it's kind of an awkward position you're in. But again, those things don't really matter. If all the money you have is, for the other ones, that's fine. At least you'll get started, and eventually you may decide someday to upgrade, and this might be something for you at that point. So it does come with a nice gas hose. Looks like a pretty nice gas hose on it. Some of them come with really, really cheap hose for this. This one's pretty nice. So we'll get that plugged in. We'll get a gas bottle hooked up to it. Of course, I always weld with gas, so I'm not going to do any flux core welding. I did not see, some of them come with some flux core, rod. This one didn't come with any. It does come with an arc welding setup. It does come with an extra one of those, and it does come with an extra one of these, which is kind of nice, and a couple of tips maybe for different size, so at least you can start welding pretty quickly with whatever you have. But you will need your own wire, of course, right away. Like the Harbor Freight one comes with a spool wire or whatever, but it's in the MIG200. This is a 110, 220, 5-part or 6-part, 6 different functions. And so it has this here. I guess this might be for the spool, I don't know, or the TIG, I'm not sure, because it didn't come with it. So we're not going to be doing any TIG welding. So it does have those options, and I think it's a lift TIG. And a lift TIG is basically you almost like a strike and arc and then start TIG welding. So I prefer using a high frequency, which you use the pedal, or a rheostatic trigger to bring on your heat for TIG welding. So it's but it does have a TIG welding option. So if you're just looking for a multi-process machine, most of these are like that. They're not usually high frequency, like that AHP over there is a high frequency unit. And look at how much the size is compared. It's a lot bigger than this is. So yeah, again, those are a lot more expensive. So anyway, this one, what I did notice, and I don't know if that means anything, maybe it's full of bricks, but it seems to be a little bit heavier than the others that I've got. So maybe it's got more electronics in it. Maybe it has bigger capacitors, things like that. I don't really know. We're not going to take it apart, but I just figured I'll just tell you, because if you're looking at it, maybe you just want to know those things off the bat. So anyway, that's a little bit about the machine. And again, it does come with, I don't know if I said, it does come with the arc welding deal there. My mind goes into brain fart mode sometimes, and I just can't remember the name of it, but I do know what that is. And yeah, it comes with that. And I don't usually arc weld. I only usually MIG weld. So anyway, but I mean, there's times when you might want to use it, and the times when you're going to want to use it. If you're welding really thick steel, okay, you're going to want to use an arc welder for that. It's a lot harder weld. So some of the really thick steel, if you're welding, you know, 1/2-inch steel or something like that, you multi-passes or something like that, you want to keep that guy around. Kind of handy to have. So anyway, let's try to do some welding with it. I'll talk to you a little bit later. If you're looking at this, they do have a helmet option. This is a nice big screen. And I don't know if you guys can see through here, but I'll just put you up there and see. That is really clear. You can see really good through that. And you know, a lot of the helmets, the cheaper helmets you get, you can't see very well through the helmet. So this one's, and it's a nice big screen. This one, I don't know if this is what the standard one is, because I show different pictures on their website, so I'm not sure. But it has a lot of options here. The amount of delay. You can change the darkness right here. And it has cut and grind on a switch, which is kind of cool. So if you just got to switch over to grinding real quick, and it's nice and clear so you can see the grind. But you can just switch it over to grind versus like a lot of them, you have to turn the knob all the way back, and then you have your setting changed. You know, you have to readjust it every time. This one, you just click a switch. Kind of cool. Nice helmet. It's really a nice helmet. You know, and some of the options, it comes with a helmet, so you might want to choose that one. I'm going to put a couple of different links in there for you guys to check out. And there's one with the helmet and the welder. And then some of them have, I think, you can buy it with the TIG torch and everything, and so more that way. So if you want a TIG torch, you can do it that way, but different ways to do it. But I don't think any of them come with the gas. Maybe they do. You can check. It shows the pictures of what comes with it. So anyway. All right, this thing has an auto feed feature. I'll show you how it works. It's really simple. It does take a little bit of a delay. Still learning how to work this thing. It's a little learning curve here. I've had to feed it twice. Let's see if that works. So if you just hold the trigger in, it goes slow, then all of a sudden it goes fast. So it has that feature, then the wire comes out real fast while you're feeding it. Some machines, that's like the Harbor Freight does that. Some machines have a button you can push and hold, and this one just does that, so it's kind of cool. Another really cool feature is it has a light inside here. Right, so this welder has two different types of settings. You can set it manually, or you can set it in Synergic mode. So you have this button over here, SYN, if you can see that. Let me get you guys up a little closer so you can see. So you got Synergic mode. Well, that's regular, that's manual, because you can see millimeters per minute, or meters per minute. And then you see here it turns it off, and it turns that off and goes to amps. So you have volts here and amps there, and then it automatically sets the wire speed. I don't really know how to use that really. So then what it does is it just kind of does this minus and plus thing. I don't quite understand. What I do is I'll just set it at 0. Okay, and just leave that alone. And then I go with what I'm doing here. So I've got, I go ahead and set my volts. And I guess you can go back and forth. You can go to Synergic and then see what the amps are for that. I don't know, but so I drop my volts, say for welding sheet metal. The sheet metal I'm welding at about 15.2 volts, and then I'll drop this down to like 6.2. It's very thin sheet metal I'm welding, so that's how I'm doing it. I'm setting the voltage in the millimeters per minute or meters per minute. That's the way that I do it. So you've got settings here. It's kind of a little different than your regular welder. So you've got that, and then you've got over here. Wait, am I in the right mode? Something's not right. Yeah, I got 0.6 wire mix, argon mix, and then I've got, so you can go from the amps. I wonder if I move that, if it changes it. Yeah, it does. So that's like automatic settings. Again, I don't know anything about how to use that Synergic mode, so I'll just go with 6.2, 6.3, and 15.3, somewhere in there, for welding real thin sheet metal. Then you got to go to here, I guess, and put 0.6 in this argon mix. So you can change that all around just by using these things here. I'm trying to think of which one you use. I think it's that. No, that's 2T, 4T. We don't like that. This one here is flux, different gas, and maybe that's some of the other settings you can. But we're going to be using mix, argon mix. So, and then you have up here, what that is, straight CO2. So one of these is for aluminum. What is that? One for flux. What's that one for? CRNI. I don't know what that is. Aluminum. Aluminum MIG. So, yeah. I'm going to use this machine for two different things. Aluminum welding and for regular MIG welding. TIG welding, it doesn't come with a torch. I'm not going to be testing it for that. So, anyway. But I'm just trying to show you the settings a little bit, how it works. It's a little bit different than your normal welder. So you have to go around, select the right mode. So this right here, icon, is for mode. So you got MMA, stick welding, and then you got TIG welding here. And then you've got, I don't really know what this one is. It says MIG. I pull the trigger and the wire doesn't feed. So maybe it's a spool welder. Yeah, I think that's what that is. I think that's what that is. That's a little spool at the end of a welder. What does that look like to you? Yeah, I'd say that's spool welder. I was trying to figure out what that is. It pulls gas when I pull the trigger, but it doesn't pull any wire. So I'm going to assume that is spool welder. So, and then we don't want that. So we want this one here, MIG. Straight MIG. So I'm on straight MIG. My wire's messed up now. Figure out which. Oh, I got this one. This wire size. Flux. So going to here to argon mix, and then I got to go to wire size 0.6, and you go to center, and then I click that to go on to meters. Okay. We can kind of get that. It's going to take you a little bit of time to learn it, but I've figured it out. But it's kind of like I said, the learning curve is definitely worth it, because once you learn how to weld with this machine, it does really nice buttons, really clean, and it also does aluminum. So it's a really nice welder. It's just to learn it is a little bit different, and I'm trying to walk you through a little bit of that so you kind of get it. But it's a really cool. I did some buttons with this thing. I was playing around. I actually had some down here, and I laid some over the other ones, and I actually had burned a bunch of holes in here. I welded most of them up with this welder. So this is 22 gauge, and I actually welded up holes with it. So you can really get the control down with this welder. So anyway, it's really cool. I'll show you some welding right now, but I just wanted to walk you through some of the settings to kind of give you an idea. The Synergic mode thing is kind of tricky because you go back and forth and you can play around with that a little bit, and then there's plus and minus on there to figure out, you know, how to make it do more or less Synergic stuff. You know, it'll automatically set the wire speed. If you've got it set to where I have right now, you're setting the wire speed, so there's no problem with that. You set it with the Synergic mode and it sets the wire speed. The machine does. All you do is you set the voltage and it sets the wire speed. So it's very different as far as that goes. If you get used to using that, figure it out, go ahead and comment below, because I'm not going to try to figure that out. I've already figured out it's just, you know, too tricky for me. I already know how to weld, so I don't need to play with stuff like that. So anyway, let's check it out. All right, we're going to go ahead and weld these two pieces together. 22 gauge. This is electro galvanized steel. This is a very difficult thing to butt weld because it's super thin. It's got a coating on it that makes it even harder to weld because it's got electro galvanized. It's like a electronically coated zinc. So it's kind of like when if you spray weld through primer on something, kind of like that. It doesn't weld quite as easy. So we're going for a really difficult area, and I've already practiced a little bit on it, and it seems to do it pretty good. So hopefully it'll come out good in video. I'll bring you back in. We can check it out in a second. The things I like about the ARCCAPTAIN is, another thing I noticed is it does not run the fan continually. It only runs it after, like more expensive machines. A lot of times they won't run the fan until they need to. And this one's got that feature in it, so it's not sitting there running. Like right now, it's been on all this time, and I've got the fan's not running until I go to pull the trigger, and it actually starts to weld, and it'll start running again. So I would point that out to you. It does have a couple more features than the Simder and some of the others. All right, so the problem I'm having right now is the feed wheel is slipping, and so if you don't have a good feed wheel, and a lot, you know, this is the last 5 or 6 welders I've looked at all had crap feed wheels. They didn't have knurled 0.06 or 0.6. So without the knurled wheel, I can't finish this out. I'm going to go ahead and wait. I've got one on order. They're, you know, I look at all the feed wheels it comes with. All these, and none of them are 0.6 knurled. There's a 0.8 knurled, but not a 0.6. And that's really what you need for this thing to work right. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and finish this out tomorrow. I was going to do it today, and I have another wheel coming for it. I mean, whenever you can see, like that button right there, when it doesn't slip, it's a really nice weld. So just to know, I mean, it's not this welder in particular, it's all of them. You know, I was trying to give myself a little bit of a gap so you could really see what that's like too. But I'm going to need a better feed wheel, because it's just, I hit, as soon as it goes back, it starts to burn back, and then it doesn't keep pushing wire because the feed wheel's slipping. So I know that's what's happening. So anyway, those are the type of things you'll have happen when you weld. And getting a good feed wheel, you know, it's like I said, you just got to order one, get a knurled 0.6. Like I said, most of them don't come with them. All right, so we got another feed roller, and I've been playing around with this thing a little bit. Remember, this is electro galvanized steel, so it's a lot harder to weld than regular steel. So if it's not doing quite what you think it should, that might be why. Lower the heat just a little bit. Here, show you the settings in a minute. Definitely going to have to lower the heat a lot. All right, so we got another feed roller. All right, so this thing is pretty much the sheet metal king. It's another one I've recently reviewed that does about the same. But if you can see there, that was a pretty good sized gap that I had in there, and I was able to weld that up. I have to finesse it a lot. Go really, really light. You can't put a lot into it, but it doesn't really need to, because look at the penetration. It goes all the way through. And you're able to weld 22 gauge butt weld on electro galvanized steel. That is like near impossible with almost any other welder. There's not many others that will do it. And I'm not using the Synergic mode. The Synergic mode says volts 15, amps 51. So I really don't quite understand that. I don't think I'll ever get to figure that out, because this is amp 51. This one says 15. Well, I changed it back to 15. Well, I guess I had it at 15. 15 with 6.1 meters per minute of wire speed. So that's what I'm running. Yeah, so I'm running it a little bit on the hot side. Probably could be lower than that, but that's so that as soon as it hits, it just immediately welds. And if you notice, I'm really feathering the trigger. I'm taking it down, just barely touching it, letting it just barely hit. and it welds right through it. On that thin of a metal, you can't put any time onto that hold on there at all. Like a lot of welders, a lot of times you're gonna have to run it like 1 second or 2 seconds. I usually go like 1, 2, something like that. And so it's about 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, something like that. On a regular, at like maybe 14, it's point something. I can run this a little hotter and just barely hit it, and it welds to it really nicely. Of course, there's some warpage, of course, as expected. The weld's a little bit moundy, but again, I'm kind of expecting that with this thin of a sheet metal. Couple holes in it, not too bad though. I did actually weld up a hole down at the bottom end, so hopefully you guys can see that I welded up a hole with it, and it did a good job. Really nice welder. I mean, these are kind of a step up from some of the cheaper ones, and they work a little better, these with the Synergic mode and the regular. Yeah, this ARCCAPTAIN's a very nice welder. Right, so let's try a semi-dirty 1/8 inch steel 12 gauge and see how it does on that. I'm just going to run a bead next to this one. We'll take a look and see what it turns out like. So I was running 20 with the 0.6 wire and 9, and that's the result. So that's just beautiful. It actually welds thick steel really well. I'm actually pretty surprised how well that went down. And yeah, so this thing for thick steel, and again, if you use 0.6 wire on a lot of welders, you cannot weld 1/8 inch steel with it. It won't work. You try and turn it up hot enough, you turn it up to 20, and the wire does burn back, and it just doesn't work. So this one here, you can crank up the wire speed, and you know, if you needed to weld a thick piece of steel here and there, I would always recommend going with 0.030 for thicker steel. But this, you know, if you got a small little job to do, you don't have to change your whole spool of wire out just to do a small job. You could do it with this. So that's a really good feature to have with this welder. Now that's on 220 as well. I'm running on a 220. I didn't hook up my adapter, so I haven't tried it on 110. It should work fine on 110. It might even work better on 110 for the thin metal. I didn't even think about that, but it might. But it works really well with 220, so it's a really nice welder. So right here, got a piece of 19 gauge. I'm just going to throw a bead down there and see if it welds to that thing without cleaning it. Honestly, you know, if it does this, it pretty much tells you, without cleaning it, if you can burn through stuff, it tells you some good things about the welder. A lot of guys don't test this stuff like this, but I believe in testing them, going through rusty metal to really know what you got. Because some welders just won't even, you get the Harbor Freight cheap, you know, flux core welder, and if you don't clean that, even if it's the cheap gas one, and you don't clean the metal, it ain't gonna weld it. I've had those cheap welders won't weld rusty metal at all. I've done it before, and it just makes a mess. Let's see if this one goes through that. And that metal was so dirty that I could barely get it to strike, and I kind of had to use the edge of it and push it over. So there's nothing wrong with the welder, but as soon as I got it to get hot enough, you can see I was able to actually run a bead down some thin rusty metal, and it just welded through it. If you can see there, got a nice looking, it's hard to, I'm not a frame there we go. Okay, nice looking weld right through the rust, burned it away. What it does is it blows out gets some of the impurities out of there, and then the gas kind of takes over and it's able to weld if the welder can do it. And this one it can go right through, you know, weld it. It can weld through the rust. If you got an area you couldn't clean, this welder is a great welder. It's, you know, check the link in the description, see what you think on the price. Let us know in the comments what you think. I mean, I'm sure that our captain would like to know what you guys think, and if you think it's a good deal or whatever. I'm noticing another thing here is ANSI. So that's really nice. It's an ANSI approved welder, or it's ANSI certified. Probably most of them aren't, so they paid extra to get that done on this one. And so that's a safety thing. ANSI with safety, and it's got that, so it's pretty neat that it has that. One thing I forgot to mention, the manufacturer, I was going to put aluminum wire in this wand, but they actually have another wand that's lined with like the silicone type, whatever it is, Teflonish, I don't know what it's called, liner inside of it. So they have another wand you can buy to weld aluminum. This one is not really recommended to run aluminum. I talked to them about that already. So if you wanted to get that, you could pay extra for that. I'm just letting you know. I was going to put aluminum in it, and I'm not running aluminum in it because of that reason right there. So anyway, yeah, it's a decent machine. I want to say it's definitely worth looking into. This one here is a good welder. It's a solid machine. It's all up to you if you're into the price. You know, there's good welders or cheap welders. There's probably ones that are cheaper. You're going to pay a little bit more, and you get some more features with this one, and it welds sheet metal like a dream. And that's really what you're looking for, is the best sheet metal welder. This one seems to be one of the best ones I've done for sheet metal. So anyway, I've done a few that are comparable. Okay, this one here is a little bit an edge above, like the Welding, and some of the others that are the cheap ones. Okay, just an edge above it, and those ones will get the job done. This one's a little more of the premium machine, but if you compare it to Harbor Freight, the machine that they have that compares to this is like $950, and maybe it comes with a torch for the other things you want to do, or something like that. But honestly, I don't see really any benefit to that welder over this one, that's for sure. The Vulcans, this thing will keep up with the Vulcan all day long, no problem. So if you're looking at Vulcans, maybe take a look at the link in the description and save some money and get yourself something just as good, in my opinion. It's probably just as good as a Vulcan, maybe a little bit better in some ways. Anyway, I'll talk to you, because it has 110 and 220 and a lot of other features. It has the Synergic mode. I think the Vulcan might have that, but I'm not sure. But they're like $1,000. This one's probably about less than half that. So anyway, I'll talk to you next video. Please like, share, and subscribe to see your comments, and let me know what you think on this one. One thing I forgot to mention, the manufacturer, I was going to put aluminum wire in this wand, but they actually have another wand that's lined with like the silicone type, whatever it is, Teflonish, I don't know what it's called, liner inside of it. So they have another wand you can buy to weld aluminum. This one is not really recommended to run aluminum. I talked to them about that already. So if you wanted to get that, you could pay extra for that. I'm just letting you know. I was going to put aluminum in it, and I'm not running aluminum in it because of that reason right there. So anyway.